Hey everyone. I think I'm live here. From what I can tell, yes, I am. Um, so yeah, this is the live feed for my spoiler-free review of the Conjuring Last Rites movie, which of course just came out yesterday. Um, so we're gonna go ahead and get into it here. I took some notes. I'm gonna do my best to stay away from spoilers on it. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, first thing I wanted to show off here was my new shirt that I got here. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. But yeah, I got that. I ordered that through Amazon. I saw that and I just couldn't resist. Um, anyway, it is 8:01, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started with this Conjuring Last Rite spoiler-free review here. So, just to give you a little context on my Conjuring universe experience here. I love the first two Conjuring movies from 2013 and 2016. Um, I think those are two of the best like haunted house supernatural horror movies in the last 15 years personally. Um, Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. It's okay. I can watch it. It's definitely a step down from the first two, and that's mostly because of the director, I feel like. And then there's this movie, which I'm going to get into shortly. I haven't seen the Annabelle movies. I haven't seen the Nun movies. I haven't seen The Case of La Llorona or whatever it's called, which I know this director who directed this movie also directed, of course, The Devil Made Me Do It, La Llorona, and I think The Nun 2, was it? I'm not exactly sure. One of the two Nun movies. Even though I haven't seen them, I have heard that it's not exactly great movies there. Uh, but yeah, that's just kind of a little bit of my background with the Conjuring universe and specifically the four Conjuring movies here. Um, really love the first one. I think I love the second one just as much. The third one, like I said, it's okay. And now we're going to talk about this one. So I'm just going to start to give you the synopsis like I do with all of my reviews here. The Conjuring Last Rites is a 2025 American supernatural horror film directed by Michael Chavis. Is it Chavis or Chaves? And written by Ian Goldberg, Richard Nang, and David Leslie Johnson McGoldick. It's the ninth in the Conjuring film series, based on the true investigations of the Smurl haunting, Smurl family. So it opens in 1964, actually, with Ed and Lorraine Warren investigating an antique mirror at a curio shop. As Lorraine touches the mirror, it subsequently breaks. She collapses, seeing a vision of an entity and her unborn child, including inducing Ed to drive her to the hospital as she is nearing labor. Tension ramps up as the couple intrinsically wards off the entity after Lorraine gives birth to their only child, Judy, stillborn, barely getting her back from the brink of death. 22 years later, the Smurl family, so we're now in 1986, moves into a two-story house in Pennsylvania. Jack and Janet Smurl share the home with Jack's parents, Mary and John, along with their four daughters, Dawn, Heather, and the twins, Karen and Shannon. For Heather's confirmation ceremony, John buys her a large mirror, which the family places in the home without suspicion. During dinner that same night, a heavy kitchen ceiling light suddenly crashes down, narrowly missing her. Janet and her daughters begin to hear disembodied voices, see shadowy entities moving through the rooms, and experience a series of paranormal events. So, yeah, very Conjuring-like from that synopsis so far. As far as the cast goes, of course, we have Vera Farmiga returning as Lorraine Warren. We have Patrick Wilson returning as Ed Warren. We have Mia Tomlinson as Judy Warren. We have Ben Hardy as Tony Spira. We have Rebecca Calder as Janet Smurl. Elliot Cohen as Jack Smurl. Killa Lord Cassidy as Heather Smurl, and Gatson as Don Smurl. So yeah, that's to set up the premise, the cast of The Conjuring Last Rites from 2025. Obviously came out September 4th or 5th yesterday. I saw it earlier today for an afternoon screening to try to save a little money. And what are my thoughts about it? Let me take a drink first to keep you in suspense. Ah, well, I went into this movie trying not to have terribly high expectations because I knew it was directed by the same guy that had done a couple of the other films, not some of the more popular ones in the Conjuring universe, including the only one that I saw, The Devil Made Me Do It, the third Conjuring movie. But I did know that, by all accounts, this is the last one, at least the last one with Ed and Lorraine Warren, played by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. Now we'll see. We'll see what the box office take is and how well it does. That's there's been a lot of franchises that have said this is our last one, and they make like 10 more after that. But my feeling is it probably is kind of the end for Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as far as portraying these characters. And I think that part of that is the performance that they give in this movie, which I'm going to get into here with my review overall for this movie. But so I do feel like it's going to be the last one. If they do another Conjuring movie, I could see them maybe doing it with, now it wouldn't be necessarily based on true events like the first four movies are. So I don't know if they would do that, but I could maybe see doing something with the daughter, Judy Warren, and her husband after the end of this movie, I guess. So yeah, but with all that being said, as I mentioned, the movie opens in 1964, so we kind of get to see Ed and Lorraine Warren's very first case, as it were, when they're basically just starting out as a married couple, and she's pregnant with what turns out to be their only daughter, their only kid, Judy, who is a stillbirth, and we kind of see how that whole thing plays out. It's kind of, she goes early because it's set off by this demon that they run across when it relates to this mirror. And the object in this movie is this mirror. This mirror that's got like three heads on the top. I think they're like children or babies or something. I'm not exactly sure. But so if you're somebody that's really into like mirror horror, like Oculus, which I still have yet to watch, by the way, but I heard that it's very good, then you might like this movie. But that's kind of the object in this movie. Because each of the Conjuring movies, of course, have a different object, and they have a whole room of all the haunted and cursed objects, of course, in their house. So yeah, we kind of get to see him at the beginning in 1964, and of course, Lorraine and Ed Warren are played by different actors a different actor and actress, a much younger one for 1964, and then in 1986, which is where we catch up to him. Sorry, I just had to update something there. Where we catch up with them from the last movie. I forget when the last movie took place. I want to say it was like 1981 or 82 or something. So this is a few years later. Their daughter's now grown up, Judy. She's like in her younger 20s. She has a boyfriend who wants to become her fiance and ultimately husband. And then, of course, you have like the first hour, well, the first 45 minutes of the movie's kind of the parents and the daughter and this her boyfriend kind of all commingling and trying to get along and everything, and a lot of setup, a lot of character development and setup and chemistry and things of that nature. There's a couple of horror moments, but for the most part, most of the horror and scares in this movie are like the last half hour, 45 minutes of the movie. So hey, Brody Stevenson, who says hello in the chat. But yeah. So I just kind of wanted to give that little bit of synopsis. So I don't think I really want to say too much else. But basically, this mirror that they see in 1964 and that induces her labor, it ends up with the Smurl family in 1986 as a gift for one of the daughters. And then, shit hits the fan from there, as you can imagine. Now, my thoughts on this movie, as I actually get into the nuts and bolts of my review, are I wanted to like it more than I did. That's kind of the bottom line here. I think it's more in the the Devil Made Me Do It tier than it is Conjuring 1 and 2 tier, at least for me. I kind of view the four Conjuring movies as 1, 2, The Devil Made Me Do It, Last Rites. Last Rites might be a little bit better than The Devil Made Me Do It. I don't know. I have to really watch both of them again to make that synopsis, to make that declaration, I should say. Um, but I don't think there's that big of a difference between the two. I mean, I don't. If this movie is better than The Devil Made Me Do It, I don't think it's leaps and bounds better like 1 and 2 are. And I think a lot of that has to do with the director and the directing of this movie, which we'll get into in my review here. But I'm going to start. I'm going to start with the good things about this movie. Um, I've only seen bits and pieces of the first Conjuring, also the Nun 1 and 2, but I haven't seen them. Yeah, I've only seen the Conjuring movies, the four Conjuring movies, and that's it, actually. I haven't seen the Annabelle movies, even though I have all three of them in a three-pack. I haven't seen either Nun movies. I have the first one, and I haven't seen the La Llorona thing. Um, so, yeah, I'm not really a Conjuring universe aficionado, I guess, but I would say more of a direct Conjuring aficionado, but I love the first two. I'm just going to get that out there. But anyway, let's get into the pros and the things that I liked about The Conjuring Last Rite. So, again, like all these movies, I think the one thing you can say about all four Conjuring movies, just talking about the four Conjuring movies, is they definitely put the time and the effort into the characters in this movie. Specifically Ed and Lorraine Warren. They're not just a couple of characters they throw at the screen as investigators, paranormal investigators, and ask you to like these characters. They really do put the effort into these characters in terms of writing, in terms of the casting and the acting of them, just in terms of the time and attention they give to these characters, their setup, their development, following their life, so that we as viewers, we really, by the time we get to this fourth movie, of course, we feel like we know them pretty well. And we like them. We genuinely like them. And that's a lot harder thing to do than a lot of people think. That's why there's so many movies where the characters suck, especially in horror movies when it's just a body count movie or something. Because they'll just throw people at the screen and say, here, this is your character. And this movie, that's one thing I could give all four of the Conjuring movies credit for, including this one. The writing and the effort is definitely there. Not just, in this case, not just with Ed and Lorraine Warren, but I would also say with Judy Warren, the daughter, and also Tony Spira, the boyfriend, the daughter's soon-to-be fiance in this movie, and even the family. I mean, I felt like, you know, they were believable, just like the family from the first movie. Maybe not quite as well acted across the board like the first movie, but and like the second movie as well. And so that's really the thing that stands out about this movie. But really, I could say that about all the movies is the characters. These movies are really character driven, and that's why even parts 3 and 4, The Devil Made Me Do It and Last Rites, are still watchable. They're still decent because of those characters. Because you know, the horror might take a bit of a downturn in these last two Conjuring movies, but the characters are pretty solid throughout, in my opinion. Sorry, I got to take a drink. So yeah, I love the characters here. Ed and Lorraine Warren, as well as their daughter, and everything they went through with her as she was growing up. Of course, you can see why they're very protective of her throughout this whole franchise. And then, of course, when she introduces this guy that she's seen, and then he approaches them about wanting to ask for her hand in marriage and asking for their blessing, and that whole thing kind of turns out a little bit not funny, but he's going to hold off on it, and then he's kind of stuck in a situation where he can't. So, but all that was great. I mean, I thought the chemistry between all four of the actors, all four of those characters were really solid. Like I said, the daughter's relationship to her parents, to this guy, and sort of an outsider that's trying to get into the family, and there's a little bit of hesitation, especially on Ed's part. Lorraine a little bit, although she's a little bit more accepting. I don't know. All of that just felt very realistic and very well done. Good chemistry, good characters, good writing, great acting. So that's the first positive thing I can say about this movie. And then again, on top of that, the performances, I thought, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, one thing you could say about them for all four of these movies, I never got the sense that they just threw their names out there and kind of played these characters half-heartedly. Every single movie, even the ones that aren't quite as high as the first two in the four Conjuring movies, they gave it their all, and their acting has been great throughout all four of these movies. And in this movie, I also think Mia Tomlinson, who plays Judy Warren, and Ben Hardy, who plays Tony Spira, does a good job as well. Um, I think the acting is helped a lot by the writing, but Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson are great actors, and that's no different in this movie. They're really solid. And speaking more to Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, you kind of get the sense that this is their last movie. Just kind of not so much from what they say, but just kind of their reactions and the performances that are coming across screen that they're giving. It just kind of feels like they know it's the last time, and they wanted it to go out on a high note, as high as they could, and try to make these characters, make the audience happy with the direction that it goes out on. And these two just own those characters. Again, I know the characters of Ed and Lorraine Warren, they're not playing them to a T or anything. I know the actual Ed and Lorraine Warren weren't quite as likable, shall we say, in real life as they're portrayed in these movies, but I just love Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, and this movie certainly doesn't change my mind on that as far as them as actors. And like I said, I thought the rest of the cast was solid as well, including those of the family, for what they were asked to do. No one's mailing it in here, and like I said, Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga's never mailed it in. They've never just done this for the paycheck. They really care. It feels like when you watch these movies, they really care about the material and these characters and presenting it in a way that's not only somewhat based on truth, although not entirely, but also that comes across in a well acted and well performed way, and they do a great job with that. I think at the end of the movie, they leave these characters in a pretty nice and satisfying place, where we don't necessarily see how it plays out the rest of their lives, but they kind of have a little bit of a future premonition, if you will. One of the characters does, kind of describing what the future looks like they get grandkids and all of that, and it kind of puts it in a place so we as viewers can feel pretty good about where Ed and Lorraine Warren end up. And then, of course, at the very end of the movie, right before the ending credits, you get the words on the screen of what we already know, which is he died at 74, I think, or he didn't die, he had a stroke, and he died a few years later. And then, of course, Lorraine Warren died years after that. So, I mean, it's true when it comes to that kind of stuff, but as far as how the characters themselves were in real life, I don't think is that true as it could have been. But my point was they kind of have the ending in sort of a melodramatic way. But if this is going to be the last one, I think that was appropriate for these characters and those performers. I will say overall, I think the movie's pretty well paced. It's a 2 hour and 15-minute movie, so you have to settle in for a bit. But I never felt, there were some scenes that you could say you were ready for the horror to come. Nothing really dragged. I mean, I thought that was a pretty well-paced 2 hour and 15-minute movie. And it's also a well-shot movie, which all these movies are, but there's nice camera works. In fact, there's one scene towards the end that has like an overhead shot where they pull up on all these houses that this family in Pennsylvania is living in. And it's just a really nice shot. I think it's done during... It's like lightning or raining out or something, so there's some nice atmosphere there. So yeah, I think again they have the money, they have the budgets for these movies. These are Hollywood movies, and I don't think they waste it. I think it's from the camera work to the cinematography to the atmosphere to the characters and cast and the writing. Everything is from a technical standpoint. This movie is just fine to being very good. But now we have to get into why it's not great, like all-time great, like the first two movies are. And it's the horror part of it. It's just like The Devil Made Me Do It. It's attached, and as much as I like these characters and thought they were really well written, well acted, and had great chemistry with each other in this movie, The horror has really kind of gone in a direction of being cliche, predictable, jump scary, with loud noises, without having that James Wan kind of build up and payoff that we got in the first two movies. And that's really the best way I can sum this movie and the last one up as to why they're not as good as the first two for me. Um, the horror part in The Devil Made Me Do It was lacking, and it's lacking here to a certain degree. You have the same director, so that's not really a big surprise, but it's just a lot of predictable jump scares, loud noises. Again, like the last movie, it misses James Wan's directing. It really does. And just his overall understanding of scares and how to really scare an audience that's not cheap or been done a million times before. I don't know if James Wan was unwilling to direct this movie or if they didn't ask him. Maybe after the second one he decided that's enough for me. I don't want to be pigeonholed as a Conjuring director. But man, I really missed him, especially in this send-off movie. But it is what it is. But another point on that with the directors, I'm not a huge fan of his style. I mean, what I mean by that, this movie has a lot of things they do with lighting, and a lot of it is the lights going out, the candles being blown out, so that you have darkness in a room, only so somebody can turn on a flashlight or light a match or something. Whereas an audience, we know there's going to be somebody standing there, there's going to be some kind of loud boom or something. To me, that's cheap. And I'm just not a big fan of this director's style, especially, again, I hate to compare him to James Wan, but I have nothing else to go on. James Wan directed the first two movies. This guy directed the last two. So yeah, just not a big fan of the director's style here with the lighting and I felt like the darkness was forced, basically in certain scenes. I also thought the look of these entities, which I'm not going to give them away, but basically there's a few spirits that are possessed by this entity, including a character that's fairly close to the Warrens. I thought the look of the entities was pretty bad in this movie, pretty laughable, not very well done, kind of CGI'd around the edges. It looked like. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of the look of them. I know they were supposed to look scary, but I was closer to laughing out loud than I was to actually like being scared or curling up in the fetal position or anything watching it. That's just me. Maybe other people have a different opinion, but. And then my final con is I'm just kind of like the third movie. I'm just kind of underwhelmed by the overall horror part of the movie. I wanted more, I wanted more from the scares. I wanted more from the horror. I mean, I don't go as much as I like the characters in this family and their chemistry and dynamics with each other, and as much as I'm invested in that, I don't go to a Conjuring movie for that. I go to a Conjuring movie to be scared. I go to a Conjuring movie for an interesting real life story that took place, and even if they don't execute it to 100% of what actually happened, I can live with that. But I just feel like the horror part of these last couple of movies have gotten so jump scary, so predictable and cliche that I was never scared once in this movie. I kind of knew things that were going to happen before they happened. Yeah, I can't even think of one time that I jumped in this movie. And that was very much the same as The Devil Made Me Do It as well. So yeah, those are just kind of my overall initial spoiler-free thoughts on The Conjuring Last Rites from 2025 here. Let's see. Brody said I would like it if they had the entity from the back rooms. Yeah. I would have liked to just have better looking entities in this movie. I was really disappointed in that. Not so much disappointed in the story, which is based on real life, of course, but I don't know, man. James Wan has just been missing from these movies ever since he finished off the second one. It hasn't been the same. It just hasn't been. And, that's just the truth of it for me. Would I recommend this movie? Yeah, I mean, if you've seen the first three Conjuring movies and you relatively like them, especially the first two, I would definitely recommend watching this one, of course. I wouldn't say that you you absolutely have to watch the first three to watch this one. They kind of, each of them kind of have their own little story with little callbacks and things from the previous film. So I think it helps to have watched the previous three movies. But I wouldn't say that it's an absolute. I'm going to give the movie a 7 out of 10, much like The Devil Made Me Do It. Um, I just think this movie's okay. I think it's fine. It's not groundbreaking. It's not stupendous. It's not great. It's fine. It's watchable. I would say it ranges from watchable to slightly above average. But if I'm tiering these four movies, Conjuring 1 and 2 are definitely in the S tier. And I would say The Devil Made Me Do It and Last Rites are probably in the B tier together, even though there might be a little separation between the two, which I'll have to figure out for when I watch both 3 and 4 again, because I've only seen both of them once, obviously. I give James Wan credit for Final Destination, but not for Dragon. Yeah, I never saw Dragon Ball Evolution, but yeah, Final Destination for sure. But I just think James Wan he's just a director that understands horror, much like Mike Flanagan does for like the horror TV series that he's done, and even some of the movies that he's done. Like Mike Flanagan and James Wan and Lee Winnell, I would say as well, who's kind of in partner with James Wan, especially with the Insidious franchise. Those three, I think, going today, just have a better understanding of true scares, instead of just cheap jump scares to throw at the screen, which it seems like in the last 25 years, every horror movie that comes out does that. So yeah, I would recommend it, especially if you've seen the first three. But 7 out of 10 is my rating for it. It's not terrible. It's not awesome. It's fine. It's like The Devil Made Me Do It. It's not going to be a waste of 2 hours, but you're also not going to be completely enlightened. Although if you are invested in these characters, especially Ed and Lorraine Warren, if you are invested in them, I would definitely recommend this movie then, because it does leave them off into a nice path and a nice place. And yeah, I mean, that's just what it does. And so that part of the movie I kind of liked, giving those characters a proper send-off. If they ever do another one of these, I don't think it'll be anytime soon, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong before when it comes to that. So other than that, I don't really have too much else to say about the movie. I saw it in the theater with about maybe 10 other people, 8 to 10 other people. Everybody was very respectful, which is always nice, because you're always a little nervous. Yet I don't go to a lot of movies at the theater. I go to maybe 3 or 4 or 5 a year, but you never know who you're going to be in the theater with. There's people that just don't give a damn about anybody else but themselves now. And that wasn't the case here. In fact, I didn't hear a peep out of anybody, which is both good and bad. Nobody was scared. Nobody screamed. Nobody laughed. The movie does try to have some subtle humor in the first hour of the movie with the awkward conversations, especially between Patrick Wilson's character and the guy that plays the boyfriend, Ben Hardy. They weren't really all that funny. They were a little bit awkward, as you can expect, but so yeah, it was a nice theater watching experience. I'm glad I saw it during the day, save a little bit of money from those nighttime prices, but yeah, I'll definitely add it to my collection. I mean, I'm a completionist for a lot of franchises, and I have the first three. I got The Devil Made Me Do It, even though I didn't love that movie. I do need to give it a rewatch. And it'll be the same for this movie. I'll definitely get it on Blu-ray to go along with the other three when it comes out. Might be after Christmas. I don't know. It depends on how long this is in the theaters for. Man, I'm thirsty. I had a hot dog at the theater. That must have been one of the saltiest hot dogs of all time. But anyway, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I could say. I don't think so. Like I said, I like the characters, the acting, and all the technical stuff, but the horror lets it down. Not a fan of the horror. Hey, Fragrance Style, what's up? It's your Fragrance Boy here. All right. You're a little bit late, but that's okay. I can keep things going. Just talking about The Conjuring Last Rites here, which I saw earlier today. Good movie, not great movie, not terrible movie, good movie. It was good, Fragrance Style. It was good. It was fine. Much like the third one, I would say maybe slightly better, than the third one. That's for that people are gonna have to determine that for themselves. But not gigantically better. It's certainly not on the level of the first two, for my money anyway. I really love the first two Conjuring movies, as I said earlier in this stream, because James Wan is the director and he knows what he's doing when it comes to the horror standpoint. Yeah, Weapons. That's another movie I want to see. I also wanted to see Jaws 50th in the theater, but unfortunately, I only have so much time and money to go around. But Weapons is a movie I definitely want to check out. From everything and everybody I've heard from on that movie, I guess it's pretty good. So I'm definitely going to check that out. Maybe at the theater yet, if I can still get there. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can say about the movie. I don't think so. Not without giving out not without giving up too much of the plot away, which this is spoiler free, and I really don't want to do that. Um, but James Wan should have directed it. That's all I'm going to say. And it was probably his decision not to. Although I think I did see James Wan. At the end of this movie, there's an event that takes place. I'll just say that, not to give it away. If I've been taking the holy water and blessing whenever I can, which is not every day, but whenever I can, that's all I can say. I have taken it before several times. Um, where was I going with this now? Um, I don't know. James Wan should have directed it. It was probably his decision not to. I don't know. I need to watch the rest of the Conjuring universe movies, like the Annabelle movies. I know two of the three are pretty decent from what most people tell me. I think the only one that's not good is the one that's just entitled Annabelle. Final Destination 7 is upcoming. Yeah, the other movie that I watched at the theater and reviewed earlier this summer, or this year, was Six, Bloodlines. And I thought that was a good movie. Um, but yeah, I'm not surprised they're doing a seventh one because Bloodlines did very well as far as the box office goes. And I think it was reviewed fairly well, as much as a horror movie can be in 2025. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be 26 or maybe even 27 before they pump out another one of those. But I like the Final Destination movies, man. I mean, there's really only one clunker in that series, and that's the Final Destination. And to be honest with you, even that one I can watch. But it's just so over the top, and the characters are just so crappy in that one. But other than that, the other five movies out of the six I really enjoy in that franchise. Kind of like Scream, although I feel like Scream is starting to run on fumes a little bit here. We'll see what they do with bringing Sydney back in part 7. Um, yeah, I know. I don't know why they called it the Final Destination. Final Destination 4 is fine with me. But it's definitely the least favorite of that franchise. Um, yeah, yeah, I love the yeah, I really love the beginning of it, especially with the whole needle tower thing and everything that went on there. Really liked it. Was one of my favorite starts of any of the Final Destination movies. The first 20 minutes or so, right up there with the traffic jam and the log truck from part 2. Um, but yeah. But yeah, as far as the Conjuring movie, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I could say. I recommend it. I give it a 7 out of 10. The cast is great. The director is not. I don't like his style, and I don't like his attempt at horror. Um, Brody says, I would also say 2018 Halloween is Halloween H40. Yeah. 40 years later, not. Yeah, that really bugged me that they just called it Halloween. Or, just why not call it Halloween H40 like you did with H20? That would have been really cool, actually, if they would have done that. It's kind of like Scream 5. I hate that they just called it Scream from 2022 because you already got that title in the franchise. Now you're confusing people. Scream is 1996. Scream from 2022 should be Scream 5. And I agree with you about Halloween. That's another series I'm getting kind of tapped out on, though. I don't really know what else they can do with Michael Myers that they haven't done in like the previous 11 films. But what happened with the Wrong Turn movies, bro. When is the next? I don't know about that one, bro. I've only seen the first three Wrong Turn movies, and that's pretty much as I can take of those. No, wait, I did see one of the other ones. It was either parts 4 or 5, and I really didn't like it. Um, Annabelle sucks, bro. Yeah, that's what I've heard. I think I only heard one of the Annabelle movies was good. I think Annabelle Creation is decent. At least that's what I've heard from most people. But the other ones are kind of trash, just like the Nun movies, just like the La Llorona movie, which I haven't seen and don't own. But to each their own. I'm sure somebody liked it out there in the world. Um, just scare me. That's what I. That's all I'm asking for when I go into a horror movie. And not with just jump scares and CGI, but some true build up of tension and scares. Um, that I can really get behind and actually feel invested in the horror that's going on. This movie doesn't do that. The third movie doesn't do that. The first two did that. So the Chucky is better. Yeah, Chucky is better as a doll. You're right about that. Um, where do you put Megan in that category? Now there's two of those, and I heard there's a third one coming out. Bubblegum horror. Have you seen the Creepshow Shutter series? I have seen the first. I actually owned the first season, which that's the one that was my favorite one. And I did see seasons 2 and 3. I think there's 4 seasons. I don't think I ever saw the last season. But I really did like the first season of that show. I have to watch seasons 2 and 3 again, though, and maybe eventually I'll get them on DVD as well. But I do have the first season. The Prom Queen, have you watched it, bro? Nope, haven't seen that one. No. No, I don't. There's a lot of movies on my horror list, and things like Prom Night and the Annabelle movies and La Llorona aren't high on that list. When I've got other movies to watch that are much higher on that list. Would it shock you to know that I still haven't watched Hereditary yet? Would it shock you to know that I still haven't watched Maxine or Pearl yet? There's a lot of new movies. In fact, I think next year one of my monthly series, is going to be watching and reviewing horror movies from the last 15 years that it's in my collection that I have yet to watch. The Friday the 13th coming out, I don't think it's a movie. I think that's that TV show with Linda Cardellini or whatever her name is. I forget what it's called. It's about Mrs. Voorhees, I believe, and Jason, I think, has an appearance in it or something. My Creepshow ranking by Brody: 1, 2, and Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. Creepshow 3 get 5 out of 5. Well, the film title Creepshow 3 from 2006. Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. I've seen the first two Creepshow movies. I really like the first one. Don't like the second one as much, but I can still have fun with it. It's still an 80s anthology movie. Haven't seen the third one yet. I do have it, but I'm dreading watching it. I've heard it's like the worst anthology movie of all time. Certainly the worst Creepshow movie. But yeah, a lot of people feel like Tales from the Dark Side, the movie from 1990, is truly the third Creepshow movie, and there's probably some truth to that. Yep, I saw the preview for Black Phone 2. It's coming out in October, and I haven't. That's another movie I have in my collection that I haven't seen. I haven't watched Black Phone, the original, yet. So, yeah, I'm not looking forward to watching Creepshow 3, but it's in my collection, so at some point, maybe I'll just have to get drunk and put it on or something. Maybe I'll maybe I'll be able to laugh my ass off at how bad it is. But yeah, I've got a lot of newer movies just in the last 10 years that I still have to catch up on in my collection. But there's only so much time in the day. And yeah, but I kind of hope they don't make another Conjuring movie, I'll say too. I think they left it in a nice place here. I'm just going to throw that out there. Um, when is him coming out, bro? The horror movie? I'm not familiar with that one. Do you mean you have the actual HBO DVD of it? Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about Black Phone or you're talking about Creepshow 3? Um, I'm not really sure what was on. The HBO, if you're talking about the HBO original show, that was Tales from the Crypt, I believe, from the 90s. But But yeah, otherwise, I don't want to run out of things to say here. I'll give it about 6 more minutes. I think 8:45. I'll probably wrap this up. But um, the movie does. I can say The Conjuring: Last Rites does have some blood in it, but it's kind of like the other movies. It's not like highly. It's not a high gore count. It's not a very gory movie. The blood is kind of. It's not bad, but it's just kind of typical, like supernatural kind of blood that you get in those type of movies. Oh, the HBO DVD of Creepshow 3. No, it's just I don't even know. It might be. It's just a standard DVD of Creepshow 3 that I have. Um, I could probably pull it out. Well, yeah, I'll pull it out quick. What the hell? Let's have some fun, should we? Yep, it is the HBO one. Here it is. It's the HBO DVD, Tales of Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. That's my Creepshow 3 here. I can just tell by looking like at the back of it that it looks bad. It does have behind the scenes interviews with the directors, writers, and makeup artists who reveal secrets behind the scares. I heard that one of the stories in this movie is about a haunted hot dog, if I'm not mistaken. Please tell me that's not true. A fucking haunted hot dog. Come on, man. But yeah, it is the HBO one. My next review, well, it'll be a 1982 movie for sure because I still got a whole shitload to go through for that. I can't tell you what it is though. I don't want to give it away, but that'll be coming up in a couple of days here. But yeah, I'm still going to be doing 1982 horror movies for the rest of September. And then I'm going to go back in October and rewatch and kind of have a mini re-review of the entire Halloween franchise, all 13 movies. Because some of them, like the last couple, I haven't seen more than twice. So it is true. Yeah, I was afraid of that about the haunted hot dog. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is coming out. Yeah, that's another one that my 9-year-old son's been pressuring me to watch the first one. Partially because there's a second one coming out, and partially because he wants to know if he can watch it or if it's too scary for him. His mom is not as big of a horror fan as I am, so I kind of have to, he's seen movies like Gremlins and he's seen Monster Squad, and some things like that, but nothing too bad. So it's based on a true story, yeah. But yeah, it'll be a lot of 1982 horror movies as part of my overall 80s series, and then the Halloween franchise for the month of October, because I want to give that franchise a re-review. So my reviews in that series won't be like full-blown reviews, because I still have those up on my channel from like 4 years ago, and I don't think my thoughts are going to change that drastically. I guess if they do, I'll have a more in-depth review, but otherwise they're just going to be more like mini reviews. Just kind of touching on each of the movies and saying, yeah, I remember this, or this is something I forgot about, or something to that effect. And then I'll probably rank them at the end of October on Halloween, all 13 of them, having fresh eyes on all of them. So yeah. Yeah, I got about 1,200 titles, probably. Not all DVDs. I got plenty of Blu-rays and box sets as well, but I got way too many movies probably, but I've collected for over 5 years too. So, but yeah, Creepshow 3, I certainly can't wait for this one. Bloody horror, violence, and gore, language, some drug use, and sexual material for an R rating on that. Oh boy. Happy days. But anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this live stream up here because I've said everything I want to say about the Conjuring Last Rites. It looks like Fragrant Style and Brody can catch up offline as you guys are having a conversation, which is cool, in the comments section. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this particular review. So yeah, Conjuring Last Rites, check it out. If you're a fan of the Warrens or you're invested in those characters or those actors, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, but just don't expect to go into it being scared like the first two movies did a good job of. It's going to be a little closer to The Devil Made Me Do It in that regard. But that's not to say there aren't some things to enjoy in the movie. So with that being said, thank you guys for joining, and thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for joining on the live stream, Brody, Fragrant Style, anybody else out there. This will be up on my channel if you want to check it out again. So with all that being said, thank you for watching, and as always, stay scared. Bye.